Can you also address the concerns people have about hybrids coming to the planet? Some people think taking over, some people think integrating, some people think uplifting society. Some of the things Bashar talked about, this integration factor.
Yeah, he's talking about the evolution of humanity. And based on his point of view, a part of that evolution is integrating with other beings as well. But, we have to kind of look at it in a slightly different way. Again, he's kind of explained the hybrids are not, in his mind, alien. They're extraterrestrial, but they're not alien. They're actually a different form of human because they were created with our DNA. And when you talk about things like the Greys, who are involved in the hybridization program, if you want to call it that, he's given a very different spin on what the Greys are, because a lot of people have assumed they are aliens. And he's basically saying, no, they're mutated humans from a parallel version of Earth. So it's just that they kind of destroyed their version of Earth. They became incapable of reproducing and needed viable human DNA to continue their culture. So they were able to shift into parallel realities like ours that still have viable humans in them with viable DNA, and use that DNA to reinforce and revitalize their own DNA by creating these hybrid beings. So it's not so much that the evolution of Earth, from his point of view, is about, quote unquote, mixing with extraterrestrials. It's really about another branch of our human family that can help uplift us to a higher level. And that would happen eventually as they come to live among us, as we open up to the idea of contact. Because that's, a lot of people have had this clue for a long time, but haven't quite figured out. It's like, because we know from biology, you can't necessarily mix two completely different species and get anything viable. So the clue has been, if hybrids are actually being able to be created, the clue is, well, they can't actually be very alien. They must have some connection to us genetically. And that's the only reason the hybrids can exist. So all it is really just, blending with another group of humans that just happen to be slightly different than us in really no more than any human on Earth, no matter what color they are, no matter what race they are, is also equally capable of producing offspring.
The future that the Zetas wanted to go back and correct, and what do you see for them in the future that would be something that they would be passionate about stepping into?
I think what we're talking about, the creation of the hybrids is their future. That's how they perpetuate their culture. And the hybrids, knowing this and knowing where they came from, are willing, like Bashar, to interact with us and give us information that would help us not go down the same destructive path as the Greys did when they were human. So that is, in my understanding, that the Greys themselves are kind of fading out, and it's the hybrids that are becoming the extension of their future culture. But they're also recognizing us as part of their family because genetically we're connected. And so they're attempting to help us, like I said, kind of not go down the negative path that the Greys went down, but to go down a more positive path so that that's not our future too.
Well, so let's put a pin on it. What did go wrong exactly?
It's a lot of the things that we're starting to experience now, ignoring our connection to nature, technologically polluting and destroying the planet, being kind of disconnected in your mind from the idea that this is a whole system and you can't harm one part without harming all the parts. It's really about hubris and arrogance and cutting yourself off mentally from the idea that nature is all interconnected. So they just took it to the point where they couldn't reverse it. Even though they were a little bit more technologically advanced, they were not spiritually very advanced. And so a lot of what they did destroyed the planet, busted the ecological systems to the point where they could not recover. And the only according to his story, the only option they had was to like go underground and start to mutate themselves to adapt to the destroyed environment that they had created, while working on a plan to figure out how to shift to parallel realities where they could get viable human DNA to prevent themselves from dying out. It's a big story, and there's a lot more detail to it. Trying to give you sort of in a nutshell what he's talked about. So is that sufficient to answer your question?
We're hybrids anyways, Anka. We are, I think the
I
human,
do feel that I
Oh, humans are
am.
hybridized already. Yeah, according to Bashar, humans are already hybridized. But but there's another layer to it. There's another group that we're also interacting with, the Greys and so on and so forth, that is taking us to a different place with that as well. Is why they're using our DNA, is because it's kind of a head start since we're already hybridized from the past. The Greys decided to become a hive mind and dispense with the emotions because the project of the hybridization agenda was so large that they decided that emotion would get in the way of being able to accomplish it. So they kind of sacrificed their emotions and turned themselves into a hive mind, ironically, in order to create a hybrid species that would then bring emotion back into their culture, but in a more balanced way. So they let go of emotions to be able to actually have emotions again in a better way. And it would be a more balanced way that wouldn't allow them to go down the same destructive path again. Yeah, he's referring to Bashar's people, his civilization, as a civilization of hybrids, is called the Sasani. The planet they're on is Esasani, which is place of the people. It's all about the idea of evolution. It's all about the idea of upliftment. It's all about the idea of expansion of consciousness.